After ignoring the China threat for years, House Democrats finally introduced a bill that is allegedly tough on China. They call it the AMERICAFIRST Act, but make no mistake, it's a bill that concedes to China. The AMERICAFIRST Act is Democrats' desperate answer to their string of self-created crises. While it contains some provisions supported by Republicans, Speaker Pelosi is holding these good ideas hostage by using this 3,000-page bill as a vehicle for the party's far-left agenda. Almost every page of Democrats' Concede Act has a provision that helps China but hurts America. Now, I know 3,000 pages is a lot to read, and my friends may not always get the opportunity, Mr. Speaker, to read it before they vote on it. So I want to take an opportunity here to actually give you some of the pages and what it actually does. Now, here are just a few excerpts. On page 1689, it provides a new unlimited green card program for the Chinese Communist Party to exploit. It also allows research funds to freely flow to colleges and universities that host Confucius Institutes, which are essentially CCP propaganda centers that literally censor our colleges and campuses. These policies would make our nation more vulnerable to Chinese espionage. In fact, the threat of Chinese spying in America is so widespread that the FBI has 2,000 active cases. Think about that, 2,000, almost as many pages as this bill is. To counter it, and they open a new case every 12 hours. So as we debate this bill for the next few days, there's going to be 6 new cases open. I mean, I wonder what they would do. How far would the Chinese spy? I've watched a lot of Hollywood movies. I don't know. Could you imagine, would they go as far and as deep to even meet somebody and spy on them when they're in the city council? Would they develop a friendship through a college, like we see here, Confucius? Maybe even help if the city council person wanted to run for Congress. Go as far if this person even won for Congress and they had developed this long relationship that they met at a college to offer to put people in their office, to help them work in that office, be interns. It would be good. Could it go this far that this person that got elected to Congress, maybe just in their second term to get on one of the most influential committees in the Intel Committee, could they go that far? And if this person got on the Intel Committee with the FBI opening up cases every 12 hours, they would probably warn leadership here about that, I would imagine, because they wouldn't know. But if leadership was warned about it instantly, that member probably would not be on a committee where they could hear the most secrets that members here don't get to know. Surely that person would not still be on that committee. And I don't know if this is Hollywood or not. What if that member even wanted to run for president after that? That would be shocking to me. Probably too Hollywood. Couldn't be true. Couldn't happen in today's world. But I don't know. The FBI has 2,000 active cases, and they open a new one every 12 hours. So what are you doing to stop that? Oh, we're going to help them. We're going to give them more money, give them a green card program. Because I'm sure when the FBI warns of the next, maybe that person could even become a subcommittee chair on the Intel Committee. That couldn't happen in America. I just know with no new leadership, it won't be allowed. On page 995, it requests a toothless report from the Biden administration on the origins of COVID. Instead of taking action to get a real accountability, it's going to ask them for a report. Now, this leadership could open a lot of select committees. They do that quite often. Why don't we have a select committee on the origins of COVID? You know, I know we're going to debate this bill for a couple days, And today I just got a notice we were going to have a memorial this week on the steps of the Capitol like we've had before, because 900,000 Americans have now died because of COVID. That got postponed. Mr. Speaker, I don't know if you know why it was postponed. It was postponed because we were debating this bill and we didn't want to put them together at the same time. I'm not sure of that. I don't know. But it's a question I would wonder. But the bigger question I would wonder is, instead of just sitting out there and giving a moment of silence, why wouldn't we give them more time to explain why those 900,000 in America died, let alone the millions around the world where it originated from? Don't you think that'd be better use of our time? I know with the new leadership, we will have that committee. On page 1396, it directs the American military to train to combat climate change. How does that compete? I always thought the American military would be trained to defend America, to protect America. But lo and behold, this Congress, on page 1396, is going to direct the American military to train to combat climate change. I know if the leadership in this Congress was different, that would not be in there. On page 1645, this is very important for competing. It creates a coral reef task force. Because, you know, a coral reef task force, somebody can cut themselves, but 900,000 Americans can die because of COVID, but you can't have a task force on that to know where it originated from. But boy, if anybody gets hurt with coral reef, we got the task force right here in this bill. That is going to make America compete like no other country can. No other country. Okay, let's go to page 227. It creates a new federal program to study plumbing. To study plumbing. Mr. Speaker, I will tell you we don't need any new program to study plumbing. If anybody here wants to study plumbing, I know Mark Wayne Mullen will give you a class day in and day out. Nobody's finer. He's proven it. But this is going to make America compete. 900,000 Americans can die, but you're not going to do anything about understanding where the origin was created. We're getting spied on every single day, all the way down to city council. But we're not doing anything there. We're actually going to fund it and let them do more. But boy, when it comes to coral reefs and plumbing, we're going to excel. And on page 1392, it gives $8 billion. Mr. Speaker, can you imagine $8 billion? How do we get $8 billion? We take it from the taxpayer. How does the taxpayer get $8 billion? They wake up in the morning, they work. They're paying more for gas. They're paying more for their milk, for their eggs, for their breakfast. They're paying more for the masks they got to put on their kids if their kids' school is even open. They earn less because inflation hits them every day. But what we're going to do is take more of their money. But $8 billion, what would this Congress invest in? Well, they're going to give it to the unaccountable UN Green Climate Fund. Now, what have they done with this fund? Where does this money go? Because if it's really worthy, I'm sure the American taxpayer would offer $8 billion more for this Congress to decide where they should be able to send that so their kids can't enjoy maybe a day at Disneyland or somewhere else, or simply to be able to pay their electricity bill that continues to rise. Well, the UN is very, very accountable for this because they've already funneled $100 million to China. So how does the Competes Act do anything to China but provide them more money? But whose money are they providing? You're taking it from the hardworking American taxpayer to give to China through the UN. And maybe they could buy more solar panels and batteries made by the slave labor in China, but paid for by the American taxpayer. I don't think that does much to help us to compete. Not at all. Now, Republicans have offered amendments to prevent China from using that money. It seems like it'd be an easy vote, wouldn't you think, Mr. Speaker? I think it would be hands down. I mean, I would really be interested, Mr. Speaker, in who in this body have constituents that have raised their hand and says, I will give you $8 billion of my hard-earned taxpayer money so you could send it to the UN for the Green Fund that has given China $100 million. I'd like to know that district. Because we offered the amendment to stop it, but you know what's so interesting? There's got to be at least 218 districts that want to do that because it failed. The Democrats said no. And you're in the majority. So it had to be your districts. And I'm not sure if any of you have taken a poll on that, but maybe I'm wrong. Mr. Speaker, all of these far-left policies would make America more vulnerable. We might be stronger in the coral reef, but everything else we're going to be more vulnerable with when it comes to China. And Democrats have spent this debate defending none of them. Not one, Mr. Speaker. Earlier this week,